Alright, I gotta do some surgery on one of y'all's favorite Jeeps, and I figured I'd just give y'all a little grand tour of it. It's the green one. Let me get these tires aired up. We'll back it out and check it all out. It's pretty complicated to get started up. I'll go over it a lot more later. It virtually has one switch. Other than light bars, you just flip a switch on, fan's automatic, radiator's in the back. Like I said, let me get the tires aired up. Sure, the first thing y'all gonna notice is I aired my tires up with it. It's pretty cool. It's just simple. I'll make a full video another day, but compressor, I ain't got an air filter. I just cut the low side out, take the high side, I just pipe threaded it. And then one wire, got a hot stud down here, kicks the compressor in, and people hate on it, but it's been on there since 16, it's 2023, that's like 7 years, works great. So funny thing about the Jeep is it was actually my daily driver, and I wound up getting something a little bit nicer and just kind of retired it, and I trusted it, so I built it all up. See, first thing, I don't really know why I built all this, but I did, and people hate on it because it's got bolts on there. But man, this thing takes like, I don't know, probably about, honestly, a minute and a half, zip these bolts out. But let's see, I'll get on the lift, show you some other stuff, but you can see shocks. I've raised them up because I wanted to run a longer shock for more flex, but if you run a longer shock, it has to go up higher. And the funny part about that is, before I did a better job of that, it actually broke the mount and went through the hood, and I was in what's called a survival race, and I had to race pretty fast, like ultra 4 speed fast, for about an hour, and this one broke off. And I don't think it hit the hood, but I was worried it was going to knock a brake line off because I was going down like a track and it had jumps and stuff, so that was pretty sketchy. All the doors are removable. All I do, I don't know how well you can see, is I just cut the lower ear off and cut the pin short, and just the same concept as a Wrangler. You can just pick the straight door up, just pick straight up on the door, comes out. The tunnel, when I pulled the carpet out to build this thing, there was no floor in existence. So when you get on a lift, it's pretty cool. I took all the floor out and added all this pipe, tube, whatever y'all call it. And there's no cross member. The transmission is supported from the pieces that I just showed you. One funny part about the whole Jeep is if you really look, there is not one single piece of tubing bent. I had a cheap bender. I didn't feel like using it. Just pie notch everything. And yeah, the radiator's in the back, and I don't remember how I actually did this, but that's the that goes down, runs through, let's see, comes out right there, goes there, no thermostat. And same thing on this side, just a universal hose comes through there. Power steering, I got an external reservoir. That's I think you already seen the video on it. Kind of just a few different reasons I do it that way. That's the one thing I forgot. This Jeep was a game warden Jeep, and I'll show you the back hatches down there. Oh, no, right there. If you can see, police. Well, so I don't know if it was a game warden or police. Well, I just said it's police. So that's what, when this Jeep was stock, this thing run amazing. And I got called out on by haters, but whatever. But if you look up 93 through 95 Grand Cherokee, they have a different cam, and I can't prove it, but this Cherokee runs better than any Cherokee I've ever had. So I think they put the Grand Cherokee cam in this police package, and you know, the Cherokee weighs less than a Grand Cherokee. So I think I've drove thousands of Cherokees, and this one just seems to, I don't know, it's kind of like a big block. You can put it up in high gear and it just pulls, so it's weird. Hop in there, I'll show you the shifter. Everybody loves it. I think I just showed you. This is the only switch. Turns everything on. That's a light bar. That's fan override. It's got a thing where it turns on automatically. Never had trouble with it running hot. But you can see my multi-purpose shifter here. Starter button, you can reach it. There's a bald eagle somewhere. I hear it. No, it's a hawk. Never mind. Yeah, there you go. So if you unplug the TCM, you have first, third, neutral, reverse, and park, obviously. So you can have, let's see, there's 3 wires going to the transmission. So down here, if you remember, Cherokee has 1 and a 2. So I take and put a switch to activate second gear. So that would be second, and that would be first. So if you want to put it in neutral drop first, or if you want to flip it over and neutral drop the second, it'll do whatever. Usually, if you ever watch my videos, you'll see that I'll click off neutral drop first and be going wide open, and before I know that I'm gonna need second, I'll just go ahead and flick it, and then usually grab the steering wheel to drive. That's pretty cool. If you went up to there, that's third no matter what. And if I want to put a second switch, you could go to fourth gear, overdrive, whatever. And then you could put a converter lockup. I don't know why I would need a converter lockup, but you could do it. So that's that. Gauges. I actually wired the fuel gauge up, but it didn't work. And if y'all watch my other video, you can see it's kind of awkward where the gas pedal is, but that's just how it worked out. So let's get the thing up on the lift. That's a nice door panel. I need that. Let's get the thing on the lift, and I'll show you some other stuff. I think that's about all the cosmetic stuff you need to see. You can see I knew what I was going to do with this Jeep. I added like bracing here to hide everything. Finally ripped the bumper off, but there's tube that runs across here, tube there. This goes through. That actually goes through the firewall. All this is interconnected. See, there's more stuff. Runs along there, goes straight through. So, Jeep's built pretty good. And got some UTV stickies. So far they're amazing. One more thing drives me bonkers. On social media, all the short stuff, people just love complaining. Normally the air filter sits right here. Well, to make this bend right here, it was really tight. So, and then when I did the external reservoir, I used to have it right here. I think it bolted into that. But when I did the external reservoir, I moved it over there. Because neutral or bouncing the rear limiter, that header right there gets cherry red. That's common sense, we know that. So that's heat. So this air filter is sucking that heat in. So what I did is I cut and run it over here to where it's nice and cool. There's no heat right here. The people on social media say that because this cage is under the hood that it's hot. So this running through is actually a hot air intake. If you can't understand that, I got nothing for you. I forgot to add too the little notches right here. Take like a sawzall blade, kind of hard metal. Well, actually I welded a sawzall blade in there, I forgot that. But any gear you're in, that's reverse. So it don't matter if you're in any gear. If you get a pickle, just throw it up in there. Reverse, take it. All right, I got it on the lift, and as I told y'all, this is my daily driver, and I forgot this is one of the reasons I quit driving it, is the leaf spring was broke. So I couldn't get the bolt out, couldn't do nothing with that. So that's kind of why I quit driving it, and then it just kept sitting there. I was like, good as that thing runs, it'd be a good trail rig. So that's where it went to the 4-link setup in the rear. Like I said, I didn't have many tools at the time. This was several years ago, but I think we had a plasma cutter. I don't really remember. So this was originally WJ lowers, and this was ZJ, TJ lowers. The WJ is a little longer, and you can see I first put this here, it bent, then I put some more bracing, it bent, then I kind of overkilled it, solved that problem. Same thing here, started ripping away from the frame. So angle iron, and that's what I was gonna say. Since I put these stickies on there, as long as I've been wheeling on this Jeep, this is the first time it actually buckled that mount. So that's why it's on the lift, is I'm actually converting it over to heim joints and brace this stuff up a little more. Oh, I'm just gonna jump all around. The shocks, they used to mount up here and go to a tab up there. And it's kind of like my idea of trailing arm, but didn't quite work out. I was using steering stabilizers to kind of get like a more stouter of a shock. Didn't work. So come back. Another thing we learned too is to raise the shock mount up level with the axle, and that just keeps rocks from bashing on it and all that crap. So mount them there, and then you got to go way up there, catch it up there. And I had too much travel, so what is it, a crotch strap for a seatbelt harness, and that's a piece of a U-bolt, and that works just fine. WJ brakes up there, and check it out, it's a water pump pulley, so that works. Oh, that year at RBD that we did like a wild jump, the boat ramp, when I got back from that, there was the rear axle, you couldn't see. Like, you couldn't see from that tube to that tube. The axle was so bananas. So what I did, oh, and it busted the housing too. Or no, I think I braced the tubes up and then it busted the housing. But one thing at a time, I couldn't get it back straight. So I cut, and then cut. And took a two-wheel drive front end, cut some perches off of it, slid them through the tube, got everything straightened back out, and then fully welded it. And that made the tube so strong, and therefore it busted the housing. So made like a clamp, cut all that out, made a clamp, fully welded all this. That's actually a piece of a spring. And same thing here, this one didn't break, but I went ahead and got ahead of the problem. Now I did have the tubes try to twist in the house, I forgot that one. But that solved that. I ain't had no trouble out of that anymore. Drive shaft, this is a Liberty, Jeep Liberty case. It's got a bigger output, 1330s, and then that's the yoke off them, 1330s. So I think that's about got the rear end covered. Exhaust is made out of drive shafts. Got like a Super 40. Yeah, it's been a good one. Got a little piece there. That's something I meant to add is just the way I had to do this 4-link setup. You know, rock crawlers, if you look them up, they say you want combined 90-degree triangulation on a double triangulation. But if you look, I've probably got like 20 degrees combined. It's just the way it worked. I did the best, but that applies so much pressure to the rubber bushings. I was getting no time out of them. So I did go to Terraflex, and they've done the best so far. And I had ZJ lowers up here, like I said. They had so much cushion in the bushing that actually goes together, that the rear end would shift over, and you can see it was beating my shock stuff right there. So I went to WJ track bar and then put a piece of tube pipe, whatever, and that took some of the flex out, but you can see it didn't work out. So that's just a mistake on my end, but it's not like I can't trust it and put nothing up here because it actually gets really close right there. So just a little problem I had to run into, but I'll get it figured out. I know y'all can't see, but just look at the shadows where the tire is right there. That little buckle, I can't adjust nothing, it's all fixed. That tire's stuck firm out there that much farther. So on adjustable height, fix that. I actually forgot this up until this point. If you own a Cherokee, you've messed with this cross member and these bolts. I forgot this Jeep was rusty. That bolt broke, and where they at? That bolt broke there, and then that bolt broke there. So that's why when I cut the floor out, I put all this stuff. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna build a sandwich plate. So there's a sandwich plate between the transfer case, and it goes up and hooks these rubber bushings right there. So for years, I run it with absolutely no skid plate at all. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you usually can avoid skidding out on stuff. But I just got some time one day and made this right here. It attaches somehow right there, a few bolts on the pan gasket, and it actually bolts in there, there, and there to the transfer case. And I mean, you can see, I think I've scuffed a log on it. Other than that, really ain't even been used. But more security. The drive shaft. That's 120 wall, along with that's 120 wall. But I don't have really much trouble out of the double cardigan joint. But I had one fail, and just the simplicity of it, for, you know, trails or spare parts sake, I took this yoke on a Dana 30, mounted it up there. So now I've got basically a one-piece drive shaft, and I promise you we don't care about vibrations. So I think that's it for this zip tie mod. You can see that's where I come in on the transmission wires and the fan controller. So yeah, we'll check the front end out. light bar behind the grill does work. So there's so much going on this front end. I'm gonna try my best to not miss nothing, but I probably will. RCVs, that's like the #1 ticket if you want anything to hold up. And same way with the rear, I kept bending the tubes, and if you look, that's a piece of pipe, tube, whatever, cut and then plated. Same thing here where people can't see, that's like a piece of 3/8 stick welded. Come across the housing. So got all that. Lower tabs, you gotta put just a little piece of something to brace them up. Both sides. WJ, I need to replace that one. WJ lowers for the front. And I have no idea how them things have held up. They've been on here the whole time. Look at that one. That's where it hits the axle. A little more tube there. Diff cover is optional. Not quite sold on those, but I had it laying around. Basically a factory mount with a little strip of metal to brace it up, and that's a track bar for well, I don't even know, but you can see this one hits the motor and breaks the oil pump off. You can ask me how I know. I've done it a few times. So I actually put like a spacer on it to lift the motor up. Little brace here, keep the frame from flexing. Both loose. And then I'll have to do this on another video, but I know they sell some, but I built my own motor mounts because if you jump them hard enough, especially the passenger side, you'll break the motor mounts off. Like a V8 sits at a V, so it's kind of like cradle. Well, a 6-cylinder stands straight up, so they're easy to shear off. I've never had trouble out of the bottom knuckle, but we cut these little braces right here, and I ain't had trouble out of that at all. Just this upper one. And I run track bars, or not track bars, limit straps. I don't think you necessarily have to, but when the axle comes down so hard, it kept blowing the bushings out. So put them on there, solve that. Steer. This, I run Heim joints, and you can see I've built my own custom knuckle there. That's actually, yeah, it's WJ, but I cut it off and did this for wheel clearance issues. But that's Heim joint welded to a Durango torsion bar. And some people probably would say you can't weld to them. Watch me do stuff. But the whole theory with that is if you hit it on a rock, it's spongy. So you can just ram it straight into a rock and it'll bounce right back. This is just some tube. I don't even know what it is, honestly. Stock track bar here. Usually weld the mount. You can see that one's broke. Down here, I cut it and take a WJ, which runs a bigger bolt here. And then I push the front end over this way about, I don't know, half, quarter of an inch, something like that. And that just helps fight this issue right there. It's not real mandatory, but basically a stock track bar. There. Oh yeah, chain on the steering brace. I used to do some fancy bracket, and then somebody's like, just run a chain around it. So that's all. I think that's the original steering box on this Jeep. Chain with a bolt. I'll walk around. I think that's about got this Jeep covered. I get complaints from all the people up at north in the rust bucket that the lower control arms mount rips off. I've never had any trouble with that, and this is a rusty one, but I do add this brace. You can see it's actually been used. That way rocks will kind of slide off of it. That one, I braced it up just because that piece was right there in my face, so not really mandatory. Same thing on this side, but you know, just quit putting 7-inch lifts on Cherokees and go have fun. But appreciate y'all watching. I'm get to work.